This is a photograph of a man named Troy Anthony Davis. He's 40 years old, and he's been on death row in Georgia for 18 years. Troy Anthony Davis was convicted in 1999 of killing a white police officer. But no weapon has ever been found. There was no physical evidence of any kind. He was convicted on so-called eyewitness testimony, much of which has been recanted subsequently, but the courts won't listen to any new evidence and try to save this man. He's scheduled to die on the 15th of May. His last appeal has been exhausted. Hello, YouTube. I'm coming to you right now with something I think is extremely serious. I've said in the past that I think that the entire system that we have of the death penalty in the United States ought to be abolished. I think there are abundant good reasons for that. But right now, within just a couple of weeks, there's a man who is scheduled to be executed in Georgia, who very well may not be guilty. But the courts, because of one technical reason or another, are refusing to look at new evidence. They're going to kill this man. His name is Troy Anthony Davis. He's 40 years old. In 1999, he was convicted of killing a police officer. Mr. Davis, as you see from his photograph, is a black man. This was in Georgia. He was convicted of killing a white police officer based on testimony, eyewitness testimony, most of which has been either recanted or changed since then, much of which was coerced by the police. There's a lot that's wrong with this case, and they're going to kill him. They're going to kill him very soon. I'd like to see that stopped, and I want to read to you what there is about this case, and I hope that you will contact this man. His name is Governor Sonny Perdue, Republican of Georgia. He is the only person right now who is able to save Mr. Davis's life. And I hope that those of you who are citizens of Georgia will contact your governor and ask him to grant clemency. That is to commute the sentence of Troy Anthony Davis until new evidence can be presented. Okay, I hope this is going to work because my iMovie hasn't been working. I erased something that was already on there in the hope that this would go, and I'm going to try it. I'm going to read to you a press release from Amnesty International regarding Troy Anthony Davis. I think this is very important, and everybody should be aware of it. Amnesty International is deeply disappointed with today's Supreme Court ruling that permits the execution of Troy Anthony Davis in Georgia. The organization maintains that evidence in his favor, which has never been heard in a courtroom, is enough to demonstrate that Davis should be granted a new hearing. The Supreme Court decision is proof positive that justice truly is blind. Blind to coerced and recanted testimony, blind to the lack of a murder weapon or physical evidence, and blind to the extremely dubious circumstances that led to this man's conviction, said Larry Cox, Executive Director of Amnesty International USA. At times, there are cases that are emblematic of the dysfunctional application of justice in this country. By refusing to review serious claims of innocence, the Supreme Court has revealed catastrophic flaws in the U.S. death penalty machine. Troy Anthony Davis, who is African American, was convicted in 1991 of murdering Mark McPhail, a white police officer. Davis's conviction was not based on any physical evidence, and the murder weapon was never found. The prosecution based its case on the testimony of purported witnesses, many of whom alleged police coercion. Several of the 9 non-police witnesses for the prosecution have recanted their testimony in sworn affidavits. One witness signed a police statement declaring that Davis was the assailant, then later said, "I did not read it because I cannot read." In another case, a witness stated that the police, quote, "were telling me that I was an accessory to murder and that I would go to jail for a long time and I would be lucky if I ever got out, especially because a police officer just got killed. I was only 16 and was so scared of going to jail." There are also several witnesses who have implicated another man in the murder. According to one woman, quote, "People on the street were talking about Sylvester Coles being involved with the killing the police officer, so one day I asked him. Sylvester told me that he did shoot the officer." Despite this, Davis's habeas corpus petition was denied by the state court on a technicality. Evidence of police coercion was procedurally defaulted, that is, not raised earlier, so the court refused to hear it. The Georgia Supreme Court and the 11th Circuit Federal Court of Appeals deferred to the state court and rejected Davis's claims. Today, the U.S. Supreme Court refused to hear his case, and Davis is now left without any legal recourse. He could be executed within weeks. It is shocking that in more than 12 years of appeals, no court has agreed to hear evidence of police coercion or consider the recanted testimony. It is appalling that so many judges were able to look away from such a grave breach of justice. Evidence of innocence simply hasn't mattered, said Sue Gunawardena Vaughn, director of AIUSA's program to abolish the death penalty. Quote, "This should be viewed as a day of great shame for our nation, one in which the green light was given to execute a citizen who may well be innocent." Now this, I've been saying for some time now that the death penalty should be abolished because there are too many cases where after the fact it's been proven that people were not guilty, where we have executed people, or where after they had been put on death row they had to be released because new evidence proved them not to be guilty. There are just too many such cases, and we cannot afford to take human life so coldly. This has got to stop. Please, especially if you are a resident of Georgia, contact Governor Sonny Perdue. His website is www.gov.state.ga.us. His email, contact via web form. His address, 203 State Capitol, Atlanta, Georgia, 30334. Phone, area code 404-656-1776. Fax, area code 404-656-5947, and area code 404-657-7332. Washington office, 400 North Capitol Street, Northwest, Suite 376, Washington, D.C., 20001. Telephone there, area code 202-624-3681. Now, this is particularly pointed to residents of Georgia because this is your governor. This is the person who relies on you to get reelected if he wants to be governor again. Please exercise whatever influence you have. If it's only a letter, please let him know that this man is probably not guilty and that the courts are not even going to listen to the testimony that was recanted. This is just wrong, and it's got to stop. Thank you for your attention to this, and I hope something can be done before it's too late.